ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling the world of realtors.
Specifically, the National Association of Realtors, or NAR.
Right, and their Code of Ethics and Arbitration Manual. We've got the 2024 version.
Which, by the way, is their rule book, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we want to see how realtors are held accountable.
Because you want to know what happens if someone breaks the rules.
That's the big question. So this manual is pretty detailed.
Oh, yeah. It covers everything from handling complaints to those actual hearings.
What I find interesting is it's not just dry legal stuff.
It really gives you a glimpse into the real estate world itself.
The values, the challenges, all of it.
And we'll see how NAR tries to balance the interests of everyone involved.
Realtors, clients, the public at large.
It's a delicate balance, for sure.
So let's start with this whole enforcement and discipline thing.
Okay, sounds good.
NAR takes ethics super seriously, like really seriously.
Oh, yeah, they have a whole system for investigating complaints.
And holding hearings and
Yeah.
even imposing penalties.
If a realtor violates the Code of Ethics, there can be consequences.
So what kind of things get a realtor in hot water?
Well, think about things like exaggerating property details.
So like saying a basement's dry when it's actually a swimming pool every spring.
Exactly. That would be a violation of Article 2.
And the manual even has real-life examples, right?
Oh, tons of them. There's this one case. A realtor was selling a house. The buyer was his wife, but he didn't disclose that little detail.
Oh, that's a major conflict of interest.
You bet. That's what Article 4 is all about.
Transparency, putting the client first.
Exactly. There's another case, this one involving social media.
Oh boy, what happened there?
A realtor made some discriminatory comments online.
Which is a big no-no, right?
Huge. That violates Article 10, which is all about fair housing.
You can't be posting stuff that violates the law.
Nope, not if you want to stay in NAR's good graces.
So what happens if a realtor breaks the rules? What are the consequences?
It depends on the severity, and if it's a pattern of behavior.
So it's not just a slap on the wrist.
Not always. It could be a reprimand, a fine, even suspension.
Wow, they don't mess around.
And in some cases, they can even expel a realtor from NORC.
So it's like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of deal.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing to remember.
What's that?
The realtor's principal can be held responsible too.
Wait, so if my agent messes up, I could be in trouble.
It's spelled out in Section 13, so yeah, it's possible.
Yikes. That makes choosing the right agent even more important.
Absolutely. You want someone ethical and competent.
Okay, so we've talked about enforcement. What about arbitration?
Ah, yes. That's how realtors settle disputes.
Like disagreements among themselves?
Right. And it keeps things out of court.
Makes sense. So what kinds of things end up in arbitration?
Well, commission disputes are pretty common.
Like who gets paid for a sale?
Exactly. That's where procuring cause comes in.
Procuring cause? That sounds kind of complicated.
It can be. It's all about figuring out who made the sale happen.
I can see how that could get tricky.
Oh, yeah. And there are time limits, too. You have 180 days to file a request.
So you can't just wait years to bring up a dispute.
Nope, there's a deadline. But before things get too formal.
There's mediation, right?
Right. It's a more informal way to resolve things.
Like a let's talk it out session before going to a mini trial.
Exactly. And if mediation fails, then arbitration kicks in.
So there's a hearing, evidence is presented, a decision is made.
And the manual really stresses fairness and impartiality.
It's like having a neutral third party making the call.
Precisely. But there's another layer to this enforcement thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Multi-board enforcement.
Multi-board enforcement. Now that sounds interesting.
It's about ensuring consistency across different realtor boards.
So the same standards apply everywhere.
Yep, even across state lines. It's about national professionalism.
So it's not just a local thing, it's bigger than that.
Much bigger. And it's especially important in complex cases.
Or when it's hard to find an impartial panel locally.
Exactly. The manual gives an example. If a local board can't assemble a panel.
They can refer the case to the state association?
Right. And there are also cooperative agreements between boards.
So there's a system for bumping things up the chain.
You got it. Multi-board or even regional enforcement.
Wow, they've really thought this through.
They have. And NIR itself plays a big role in safeguarding the Code of Ethics.
Making sure everyone's playing by the same rules.
Exactly. It's about maintaining trust and integrity in the profession.
Which is crucial when you're dealing with something as important as real estate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even touched on client rights yet.
Well, I guess that's for next time then. Stay tuned, everyone.
We'll be back with more on realtor accountability.
Yeah, client rights. That's something people probably don't think about much.
Until they need to, right?
Exactly. It's easy to assume the Code of Ethics is just for
But
realtors.
it's designed to protect everyone involved, especially clients.
So, let's say you're working with a realtor and something feels off.
Like they're stretching the truth about a property.
Yeah, maybe violating Article 2, like forgetting to mention a leaky roof,
The first thing you should do is talk to them directly.
or their broker.
Right. Sometimes a simple conversation can clear things up.
Okay, so communication is key. But what if that doesn't work?
What if they just ignore you?
Yeah, what then?
Well, you can file an ethics complaint with the local realtor board.
That's where that whole Grievance Committee process comes in.
Exactly.
But what if it's not really an ethics violation?
More like a contractual dispute.
Right, like a disagreement over the commission.
In that case, you might consider mediation or arbitration.
We talked about these earlier, right?
We did. And remember, Article 17 actually obligates realtors to arbitrate.
For certain types of disputes, yeah.
So you have some leverage there. You can invoke that article.
And push for a fair resolution.
Exactly. And even if the issue isn't covered by Article 17.
You can still suggest mediation or arbitration.
Right, as a way to avoid going to court.
Which can be expensive and time-consuming.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember your rights go beyond adhering.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, depending on the situation, you might have a legal claim.
Like, if a realtor's actions caused you financial harm?
Exactly. You might be able to sue for damages.
So it's not just about ethics complaints and arbitration.
Right, there could be legal options too.
That's where a real estate lawyer would come in handy.
Definitely. They can help you assess the situation and figure out the best course of action.
That's great advice. It's good to know all your options.
Absolutely. But let's dig a little deeper into the Code of Ethics itself.
Okay, sounds good.
We talked about Article 2 and exaggerating property details.
What are some other things clients should watch out for?
Article 4 is a big one. That's all about conflicts of interest.
So realtors have to disclose any relationships that could affect their judgment.
Exactly. Like if they're representing both the buyer and the seller.
Oh, dual agency, right?
Right. Or if they have a personal stake in the property.
Like if they're the owner or related to the owner?
Exactly. Transparency is crucial in those situations.
It's about avoiding even the appearance of impropriety.
You got it. And of course, there's discrimination.
That's a major violation, right?
Huge. Article 10 prohibits discrimination based on all sorts of things.
Race, religion, national origin.
Familial status, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity.
So realtors can't steer clients towards certain neighborhoods based on those factors?
Nope. And they can't make discriminatory comments.
Even if it's not intentional?
Even then, they need to be aware of unconscious bias.
That's a really important point.
It is. And NAONR provides training on fair housing and diversity.
So they're trying to help realtors operate ethically and inclusively?
Exactly. But clients need to stay informed too.
Knowledge is power, right.
Right. Now, the manual also talks about property information.
What do they say about that?
Standard of Practice 2.1 says realtors can't misrepresent or conceal facts.
So no hiding those termite problems.
Exactly. But there's a nuance here.
What's that?
Realtors aren't expected to be experts on everything.
They don't have to uncover every hidden defect.
Right. And they're not supposed to give advice outside their expertise.
So they need to be honest, but they don't have to be all-knowing.
Exactly. And Appendix 2 provides guidance on what's considered a pertinent fact.
So it helps clarify what information is really important for a client to know.
Precisely. And the key question is this.
Would knowing this fact influence a reasonable person's decision to buy?
That's the test. So it's not about disclosing every tiny detail.
It's about focusing on the information that really matters.
Right. And that's why it's so important to ask questions.
Don't be afraid to dig deeper and get clarification.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely. Now, what about advertising and marketing?
Ah, yes. Article 12 covers that.
And what does it say?
It stresses truthfulness and accuracy. No misleading or deceptive claims.
So, no photoshopping extra bedrooms into a listing.
Nope. And they have to be upfront about their credentials.
No pretending to have qualifications they don't actually have.
Right. And they can't make negative remarks about competitors.
No bad-mouthing other realtors.
Nope. It's about focusing on your own strengths and being professional.
Good advice for everyone, really.
It is. Ethical conduct should be the standard no matter what.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have ethics violations, enforcement, client rights, specific ethical considerations.
It's clear that NAIR has put a lot of thought into this system.
They have. They're trying to promote accountability and professionalism.
And while no system is perfect,
Of course not.
this one provides ways to address wrongdoing and resolve disputes.
Exactly. It's about fostering trust and confidence in the real estate profession.
And empowering both realtors and clients.
Right. To navigate the complexities of real estate with a shared understanding of ethical conduct.
Well said. But there's one more thing we need to talk about.
What's that?
Technology. It's changing everything.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
It's like real estate went digital overnight.
And now we're all playing catch up.
Trying to figure out the rules of the game.
Exactly. And there are definitely some ethical gray areas.
So where do technology and ethics really clash? What are the hot spots?
Data privacy is a big one.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Realtors have access to so much sensitive information.
Financial details, personal preferences, all that stuff.
And with everything moving online, there's more risk of data breaches.
So cybersecurity is crucial.
Absolutely. Protecting client confidentiality is paramount.
And is NAR doing anything to address this?
They are. They've issued guidelines on data security best practices.
So they're taking it seriously.
Oh, yeah. They're stressing the importance of secure platforms and encryption.
Trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Right.
Right.
But clients need to be proactive, too.
What do you mean?
Ask realtors about their data security measures.
Don't be afraid to ask those tough questions.
Exactly. How's my information being stored? How are you protecting it?
Good advice. Now, what about social media?
Yes. That's a whole other can of worms.
Where ethics can get a little murky.
For sure. Appendix 3 actually addresses this.
It talks about realtors and social media.
Specifically about Article 10 and discrimination.
Okay, so what does it say?
It says discriminatory comments online can be violations of the Code of Ethics.
Even on personal accounts.
Even then, it doesn't matter if it's Facebook or Twitter.
So those private rants can still get you in trouble.
Absolutely. Realtors need to be mindful of their online presence.
It reflects on their professional reputation.
Right. And even comments that seem private can become public.
It's a good reminder to be careful what you post.
Think before you click.
Exactly. Now, what about online advertising?
That's covered too. Realtors can't make misleading claims.
So, no photoshopping extra bedrooms into a listing photo.
Definitely not. And they have to be honest about their qualifications.
No fake credential.
Nope. And no shady tactics to attract clients.
Like creating fake profiles to boost visibility.
Exactly. NAR considers that unethical.
It sounds like they're really trying to keep up with technology.
They are. It's a constant evolution.
Because technology is changing so rapidly.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's only going to become more integrated into real estate.
We're already seeing virtual reality tours and AI.
Blockchain, too.
Yeah.
And those are just the beginning.
It feels like a whole new era is dawning.
It does. So, as we wrap up, what's the key takeaway here?
What should listeners remember about realtor accountability in this digital age?
I think it boils down to this. Ethical principles are timeless.
They don't change, even as technology advances.
Exactly. Honesty, transparency, fairness, integrity.
Those are the foundations of ethical real estate.
Whether it's online or offline.
So the fundamentals stay the same.
They do. And both realtors and clients need to work together.
To make sure those principles are upheld in this digital world.
Absolutely. It's a shared responsibility.
Well said. This has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has. And remember, informed clients are empowered clients.
So stay curious, ask questions, and advocate for yourselves.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to speak up.
Great advice. Thanks for getting us on this deep dive into the world of realtors.
It's been a pleasure. And always remember, ethics matter.